Oh shit, I forgot to send the message to WhatsApp people. Done. Can you hear me, folks? So if you can hear me, uh, please say something and we will begin. It's already 8:07. If you're ready, I'm ready. Miss Shivani Rajgharia. Hi Nishant. Good morning, Miss Rajgharia. Can you hear me properly? Should we begin? You're audible. Beautiful. Thank you so much. So we should begin. I'm live on LinkedIn. I'm live on YouTube. Yeah, it's perfect. I have sent messages on WhatsApp. And let's begin the show that we deserve. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go. Oh, but before we go, gotta follow tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Man, that was beautiful. Let's do it again. Sublime. It was healing. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say, right? With that out of the way, let's begin. So before we begin on the business analysis, there's a lot happening as far as the whole geopolitical and its marriage with the business ecosystem is considered. The geopolitical scene is hot. America's own political system has come in shambles because of the whole assassination. Twice attempted on Trump, once on Mr. Charlie Kirk. Unfortunately, that was successful. Rest in peace. And that has led to a real, conflict with the whole economy. So what people are saying is that the Democrat establishment needs to be absolutely dismantled. It needs to collapse for the country to survive. And forget about their arguments, what people are, discussing amongst themselves. My personal, this augurs well with what we've been talking about as far as analogy thinking is considered. So I told you, right, how analogy thinking is bad thinking. We've always discussed when we're talking about businesses or when we're talking about ideas, when we're talking about money, it's just very easy to say analogies, right? But that's always a very lazy, very bad argument. It just derails everything. Why? Let's say you're discussing AI, right? And person says, oh, this is what was said when printing press was invented. And like, and then you're like, you that derails the discussion. Now you have to discuss printing press and how it's different from AI. So you have like a 10-minute detour towards a new area. Then somebody says this is what people said when fire was invented or industrial revolution happened. So then you stop your discussion on AI and you start talking on industrial revolution and fire and let's say printing press, and then it goes bad, right? So analogies distract you from the core argument, from the core principles that you want to discuss, or what you should think. So analogies are a bad way to think. Now I'll take a step forward in that argument, and I'll go on to say that analogies are the enemy of humanity. Okay, not just in the business play, not just in the economics play, finance play. Analogies are the enemy of humanity. Now, why would I say that? Let's say if you are having a political discussion, okay, you are now we don't discuss politics, we won't discuss politics, but let's say you are having a political discussion after you had a business discussion, because these things are very closely connected. In that political discussion, somebody likes that leader, somebody hates that leader, and what they end up saying is that that leader is Hitler. Okay, so they say that that leader is Hitler. Now the person has said that they're Hitler, right? Now you have to defend him. You're gonna say your conversation shifts to Hitler, but in their minds, they've said that that particular leader, the leader you like, he's Hitler, right? Now what happens to Hitler? What should happen to Hitler, right? He should be killed. He should be assassinated, right? Now you are not talking about the fundamentals of that leader or his leadership or his policies or her policies or whatever. You called somebody Mussolini, called somebody Hitler, and all of its supporters, then what do they become? They become Nazis, right? So instead of actually debating a policy or moving towards a congenial discussion or like a productive discussion of what could be done better, just by using analogy thinking, you killed that discussion forever, right? And led people to violence, because the best thing you can do to Hitler is just eliminate him, right? And that's why I'd go earlier I just used to say analogy thinking is just bad thinking, but I'll go forward by saying analogy thinking is the enemy of humanity, right? Remember, you heard it here first, because this is going to be a spiel from now on, at least from my side, right? I don't want to hear your analogies, your shitty analogies. I don't want to, neither in business, by the way, nor in any discussion. If we are having a discussion, we want to discuss it in first principles. We want to discuss it in the core of the argument, not vague examples drawn from here and there and put forward. Now somebody might say, but Nishant, even while you are writing something, right, you sometimes give examples from everything else, right? Other places. Now, when I quote, first of all, examples are different from analogies, right? So the core of your argument has to be structured in a way where you first discuss, expose, and explain the first principle of your argument. Let's say anything that you're discussing, you explain the core of the argument, and then you can give some sort of examples here and there. But if the core of your argument is an analogy, right? Let's say he's Hitler and this guy is Nazi, obviously, right? If somebody is Hitler, his close ally would be Goebbels, right? And you need to kill Goebbels. And then, the whole political violence begins. So the core of the argument is, without wasting too much time, analogies are not just bad thinking. Analogies are the enemy of humanity, right? So I'm going to stick to it. If somebody has any doubts, I'd be happy to take it up. By the way, speaking of geopolitics and politics and business and how they're related, there was a very interesting interview of Mr. Tucker Carlson and Mr. Sam Altman. I guess it got published a couple of days ago or yesterday. Very interesting argument. Tucker Carlson is another phenomena. Mr. Tucker Carlson is a right-wing phenomena, and his rise to prominence in the US media ecosystem is also pretty interesting. So for people who don't know, American right got a real big resurgence in 2015. A resurgence, or let's say reinvention, right? That's when the Made in America, or like America First, or Make America Great Again movement. Scott Adams, sir, was one of the first, identifiers of this movement. He saw this coming. Tucker Carlson rose to prominence back in 2016, right after Trump got elected, right? So he used to have like a show where five other people used to be there. It was called Fox 5. Then he got his own show called Tucker Carlson Tonight. And he ran that show until 2024, 23, 24, right? And that's when he was fired from Fox News and he became an independent guy, right? So and very interesting. So why he rose to prominence while he was hosting Tucker Carlson Tonight was he used to write these great monologues, extraordinarily great monologues, and talk about the American business, American political ecosystem in those monologues. So Tucker Carlson Tonight, and he interviewed Sam Altman, where he asked him point blank, essentially, that what do you think about the killing of Ruchir Balaji? Because I don't think it's a suicide. Mr. Ruchir Balaji, rest in peace, was a whistleblower at OpenAI, who is no more, and it's claimed that he was shot dead. I'm sorry, he committed suicide, but allegations are that he didn't commit suicide. He was actually killed, and the other whistleblower was essentially murdered by somebody, right? And Tucker Carlson was one guy, Mr. Tucker Carlson. He put Mr. Sam Altman in that spot where he said, "Hey, two of your whistleblowers, one committed suicide. It wasn't a suicide, and other was murdered. What do you want to say about it?" So a very, very interesting time, but scary time, of course, in the world of business and politics, like whistleblowers getting killed and whatnot. Something very similar is happening in the pharma space as well, but that's a very longer discussion. Let's get to the daily happenings. Divisions emerge at Tata Trust. Key meeting ends in a stalemate. So, Tata board, Tata Trust is going through some sort of overhaul, right? And this is not new, but this is not old either. So as Mr. Ratan Tata passed away, rest in peace, Mr. Noel Tata took the reins. And then there's a rule about 75 age limit for the independent nominees or whatever, right? And that rule has one person in contention. So the board is like, what do we do? And the other people are saying that, that rule is to be stayed. So basically an independent board composition is getting debated a lot. And Tata Group also has problems as far as the trustees are considered, because one of the trustees, basically Tata Group is Tata family and Shapurji Palanji family. Those people are debt ridden. They want to sell their stake in Tata, but Tata can't allow that, right? Tata Trust, they want Tata Trust to get listed so that their debt can be paid, but Tata Trust doesn't want to list itself. It wants to stay as a trust and control the Tata sons, essentially the whole empire as a trust. So a lot of rigmarole happening as far as Tata Group is considered, especially after the succession thing is considered, is been on. Similar, something very ugly is happening with the Oberoi industry as well. Oberoi Groups, the Oberoi hotels. Now there are two wills in contention. One is 2021 will, one is 2022 will, and basically the cousins and the children, the stepchildren, and so on and so forth, they're all fighting for the stake in the Oberoi empire, right? So it's a very, very ugly situation. We also talked about the Kapoor family situation, where Mr. Sanjay Kapoor died while playing polo, in a very tragic circumstance. Probably a bee hit his, mouth or something, and then it blocked his thing and became a cardiac episode. I don't know what happened. Very complicated. But he passed away, and then everybody in his family essentially started getting over the money, right? Including his ex-wife, which is Miss Karishma Kapoor, the actor, so on and so forth. Moving on. So a lot of these things happen. If you want to read a very good book around these things, and why these things are so important as far as the succession planning is considered and everything, Madam Sonu Bhasin is working a lot. She actually has a business called Family Business Organization, where she coaches family businesses to plan their succession and so that everything good goes well. But a very good book is The Making of Hero, Four Brothers That Shaped a Revolution. It's essentially a biography of Mr. Brijmohan Lal Munjal, the patriarch of Hero Group, written by his son, Mr. Sunil Kant Munjal. So in that book, after he talks about Hero's growth, he talks about talking to his uncles about Uncle ab isko divide karte hain. And O.P. Munjal, sir, the Hero Cycles patriarch, and Brijmohan Lal Munjal, sir, the Hero Motorcorp patriarch. They're very different empires now, right? So, but they were four brothers. They was the group company. So Mr. Sunil Khan Munjal said it's better to divide right now, otherwise it's gonna get very ugly. So they did a very good. They created a constitution. They split the company very well, but even then it got ugly. So it's very hard. Moving on, logistics warm up. It'll be one big road trip as festive season kicks off. With GST 2.0 taking effect, seasonal ramp up, demand for transportation in overdrive. So this is very interesting. Some numbers that you might like. We obviously know, we've talked about how logistics, how transportation is a very leading indicator of what is to come, right? Because if trucks are moving, if people are moving, something is moving, right? Stuff is moving, people are moving. That means the economy is moving. If the economy is moving, you can be rest assured that the good news is on the way. It's not good news yet, right? Nothing has happened yet, but the good news is on the way, because these people are on the way. They're gonna reach somewhere, they're gonna stop somewhere, and when that stuff lands there, it's gonna sell, right? So that's the hope. So transportation, logistics is always a leading indicator of what is to come. And 60,000 truck trips needed by automakers in 3 weeks. Okay, 60,000 truck trips. That was 40,000 last year. And 450k, 475 cars expected to sell in September 22 to October 23. That's essentially much more than 400,000. So if you look at the number of trips, right, stocking has been at a minimum for a month now, but some estimates automakers alone will need to 60,000 trucks. They did 40,000 in the entire festive season last year. So 60,000 over 3 weeks versus 40,000 for the entire festive season. So of course, a lot of deferred purchases have been happening. We saw the August consumption go up by a bit. Why by a bit? Because deferred purchases and front loading are two very interesting phenomena which shape everything as far as the economy is considered, right? So that goes on. Flipkart is expanding fleet by 1.5, 45 new Amazon delivery stations, right? 3.5 to 4 million TVs likely to sell in a month, nearly 2x the usual volume, and 20 to 25% hike in freight rates as truck demands exceeds supply. So that's obviously going on. Car companies have revised their growth targets. They've given an upward revision. Upward revision is, let's say you thought that they're gonna sell 10 lakh weight loss drugs, the GLP-1s, but they're now gonna sell 12 lakhs. So you basically give an upward revision projection, which is what's happening as far as the car companies are considered, which is very good news because car companies had been in doldrums for a very long time. When I say doldrums, I don't mean that they were collapsing or something, though some of them were collapsing. I mean that the car industry in lump sum wasn't growing at all, right? 4 million, and so on. So that was a big problem. Maruti Suzuki to Hyundai are revising this fiscal's growth targets upwards, enthused by bookings on ground since reduction in vehicle prices and GST rate cut. So these car companies actually went out of the way to actually, even shorten the deferred purchase cycle. So they said that we should reduce the price right now because there's a lot of cess that we've paid on the existing inventory. Where would that go, right? Speaking of GST reduction, so obviously the government did GST. We've talked about it enough. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency obviously know that GST has been revised to drive consumption. Why consumption? Because Indian corporates have a very bad habit of sitting on cash, right? They don't like to do private capex. Private capex has been a very big problem in the country, right? And to get people interested in private capex, you need to have some real surge in demand. So if people say that, oh, the demand is growing, maybe it makes sense to make another factory or something of that sort, right? So GST is all about demand. It's all about making things cheaper for the public so that people can buy more and so on and so forth. The thing is, sometimes the GST revision, the downward revision, also leads to very interesting problems. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency know this. We've discussed this. It's called inverted duty structure, right? What inverted duty structure is I make a toffee, I sell it for $100. I imported sugar, bought some packaging material, plastic, some printing material, some whatever goes into sugar, toffee. I'm not sure, but majorly sugar. So I bought all those things and I paid a GST of 10% or let's say 18%. 10% is just an example, right? So it's all examples. Nobody buys a toffee for $100. So let's say I paid 20 rupees as GST. And earlier there was like 18 rupees as GST when I used to sell those toffees. So toffee used to have like an 18 rupee GST. Okay. So 82 rupees was my selling cost. 18 rupees I collected as GST. 18 rupees I paid to these people. So let's say I bought stuff worth $50. Okay. So 9 rupees I used to pay to these people as GST. So 9 rupees I paid here, 18 rupees I collected from here. I get a net GST of 9 rupees which I'll pay to the government. Okay. Now what happens is the government says no GST here. No GST here. So I'm paying GST there. So 9 rupees is going there, right? So it's good for the public, it's good for the government, but I've got to balance it somehow. So what do? I have to raise the price of this particular product, right? Even though the GST goes down, so 18% goes up, it could be $82, but then I'll raise it to $90 just so I can adjust that GST. It's called inverted duty structure and how you have to deal with that. Now, the problem is that leads to bad news for the consumer, right? And bad news for the consumer is a bad news for the government, right? Because that's what the government tried. They wanted to bring it down so that more people buy. But let's say 100 rupee toffee is again some 92 rupees. More people will buy it, but not as many as when it would be $82, right? That would be real consumption boost. So that is what the notebook makers are saying. When I say notebook, I don't mean the digital notebook. These people, the book guys, the copies, the paper notebooks, paper textbook guys. So they're saying that the nil GST is causing us problems because we are paying whatever we are paying for paper. What do we do with that? So should we raise prices? Similar situation has been said by insurance guys, right? We've talked about this. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how insurance guys said that the individual insurance is tax free, GST free, right? Which is bad news for us because we are we are paying whatever we are paying for the procurement of it is considered, right? Even the commissions are charged at 18%. So we are paying all the GST for procurement and making of the product, but we don't have anything to balance this GST with. So what are we gonna do with all the money that is getting locked? That's going to lead to some 14,000 crore rupee loss for us. So should we raise the premium? And we can't even raise the renewal premiums because they are long-term contracts, right? You can't raise. So that particular bit is also happening. Happening as far as the insurance industry is considered. The car industry also said that what are we going to do with the cess play? Then there was another industry which I'm forgetting. We discussed this. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that they had a very interesting case for the inverted duty structure. I don't remember, but we discussed it in depth. Some handle called Mr. Head It Home. I don't know your name, but I'll call you Mr. Head It Home. Insurance costs might go up 10 to 15%, but it benefits holders. Well, that is complicated. It cannot benefit holders if the insurance costs are going up. The reason why they brought the GST down to nil was because they wanted to, benefit the insurers, because that was the benefit for insurers. Also, the ambiguity right now which insurance companies are saying is that, hey, individual insurance is no GST, but the group insurance bought, through an individual, for an individual, is that also exempt, right? So that is also a conversation which insurers are having with everybody, with the government essentially, right? Speaking of, yeah, that was pretty much what was the inverted duty play. ITC PepsiCo make beeline for 10% bite of Balaji Wafers. Balaji Wafers is, by the way, a very up and coming company. Now, I haven't had their products to be honest, but it's a huge company, some 40,000 crore company, right? Uh, PepsiCo and ITC are trying to buy 10% stake in that company. Now, PepsiCo under Madam Indra Nooyi, the ex-president, was wanting to buy some stake at Balaji back in 2019, I guess. Yeah. Uh, 2013, not 2019, 2013. So they were looking at buying, but it didn't happen. Balaji family is an Ahmedabad based snack maker. The family is called Virani family. It's called Virani family, man. So Madam Indra Nooyi wanted to take over Virani family's Balaji Wafers, 51%. They didn't want to sell. Now Balaji is a huge company. So if you want to read something very good, Mr. Yogendra Pratap Singh says, Balaji is huge in the West. It's a Rajkot business. Yes, it's a Rajkot based company. I was just coming to that, Mr. Singh. Mr. Tiwari says, Balaji wafers are good. And with a tongue out emoji. So, okay, that's beautiful. So what I was saying was that if you want to read about something about this industry, the best book that you'll ever get your hands on is Bhujia Barons. Okay, now Bhujia Barons is the biography of Haldiram's empire, the three families, written by Madam Pavitra Kumar, Miss Pavitra Kumar. Beautiful book, extraordinary book. So when the journalist actually goes to the Agrawals, right, the Delhi guys, they say, why do you want to write about us, right? We are a 100-year-old company. We've not grown so fast. If you want to talk to somebody, talk to Balaji, right? They've been huge. So that's how I knew Balaji, and they're doing pretty well. Yeah. West India, I mean. Yes, of course, Mr. Singh, I understood. Let's move on. Adani Group is seeking partnership as far as the LCD fab is considered, display fab. It's talking to Japan's Sharp Corporation and also Panasonic to establish an LCD display fabrication plant in India. So Adani's were, there was a big announcement of Adani's investing a lot of money in Maharashtra-based semiconductor play or something. But they said that this is not aligned to our business and this is not going to happen. So that particular plan has been paused. It was a huge plan, right? But that has been paused. Now they're looking at LCD fabrication. So that's where they see themselves getting involved in the whole India, electronics component manufacturing business. Very important, very interesting. Adani's, by the way, have been one group who've been keeping the private capex sentiment alive. If not for Adani's, we wouldn't have had, we would have been very, very low as far as the whole private capex. So they took the debt and they really put it to use. And they just didn't, keep building on their one facility like a lot of people. They actually went out of the way and developed infrastructure which otherwise wouldn't have existed. So that's something very interesting and very important, right? Moving on. Fairly valued in India but too rich for global tastes. So these people are saying, some analysts are saying, some global markets are saying that Indian equities are becoming expensive because Indian equities price to earnings is at about 21, 22, while Hong Kong price to earnings is at about 11.7. South Africa sits at 12.7 and so on. So Indian price to earnings is 21.97, which is expensive, right? So people are saying that India's last quarter earnings report, India Inc. last quarter earnings report was bad. And it was bad. It wasn't that great, to be honest. It was a mixed bag. especially driven down by a lot of FMCG players, IT players, and so on and so forth. They're saying that India is fairly valued. So if you look at India's Buffett indicator is the market cap of all companies of a country divided as a ratio of the GDP of the country. So that is 1.33 for India right now. So India's equities are not very expensive, but at the same time, emerging markets equities look better in comparison. This is why the FPIs are going out. So FPI sold like 3,000 crores, and at the same time, retail investors bought like 4,000 crores. So Indian capital market, the stock market is resting on the retail investors' shoulders, which is why you'll see a lot of IPOs buzzing, right? So Tata Capital is looking at launching a mega IPO of some 13,000 crores. There was LG, which is launching a 10,000 crore IPO. Hyundai had the biggest IPO in India. I don't know how big it was. It was a $3 billion IPO or something of that sort, right? And then there's Geo. So because of this particular appetite, even FPIs, they are trying to go in the IPO game, right? And not in the established listed play. But I believe that in the next quarters, especially in the next 2 quarters, India's earnings will radically improve. Or let's say, if by radically, I don't say that they're going to get doubled so that price to earnings will come down from 22 to 12. I'm not saying that, but it'll be far, far more, attractive than it is right now. So we are pricing in the future. Also, the volatility index is not big, not high. VIX just fell like 1.7. VIX is volatility index. Volatility index is again something that indicates where the swings of the market or the coming swings of the market. Now, how is volatility index calculated, or let's say, how do you come to the volatility index? It's basically measuring the calls and puts of the future, right? So if there's a lot of divergence the volatility rises. Moving on, Nifty's PE ratio 21.97 current, 5-year average 24, 10-year average 24. So India is pretty fairly valued right now is the bottom line. Notebook makers seek shift to 5% GST. We've talked about that. Tax relief on health commission. We've talked about that. Okay. Very big news. India is actually talking to Russia and it's saying that stop recruiting Indians into Russian army. So this is like mind blowing for me. I didn't see this coming. That a lot of Indians are joining Russian army, right? Or military service, essentially support military service. Why do you think Indians are joining Russian army? Can you guess why Indians are joining Russian army? Can you make a guess? Would you like to place a guess on where this Russian army love is coming from? Right? It's very interesting. So Indians are looking at Russian army so that they can shift to Europe. No, not lack of jobs. Illegal immigrants taken from India. No, Mr. Manocha. Plus legally they also pay more. Mr. Manocha says it's not lack of jobs. It's basically Indians trying to escape India. Love for Russian girls. Well, that's a better explanation, Mr. Tiwari. But these people are essentially going to Russia so that they can go to Europe from, as Russia as a conduit to Europe. Like, how much do Indians? There are two options, right? Number one, they just love Russia a lot, okay, or love US a lot. Let's say that's why 3.5 lakh Indians really want to go to US still, right? They give an arm and leg to go to US. They love Russia so much that they are willing to fight for the Russian army in a war they have nothing to do with, or they just hate India so much that they don't want to stay. So amidst whatever we've discussed as far as valuations of the Indian market is considered, or the GST reform, or the consumption story, or the private capex, whatever we are talking about, how does India solve this problem of Indians wanting to escape India at any cost? That is something that we need to think about, because that seems to be the biggest issue with the country right now. Don't you think? Like, people are literally willing to fight in somebody else's war just so they could escape the country. Like, this is, food for thought. We need to really think about this, right? Why is this the case, and what would actually help? What would be the solution for this problem? Very, very good question. Nepal is obviously on, the struggle. We won't talk about it because what is there to talk about it, right? In the fight between CIA and MSS, little countries get crushed. And people think, oh, it's a Gen Z movement. There is no Gen Z movement. There is no student protest. There's no nothing. It's just a bunch of bullshit, right? It's all foreign interference happening in countries in the name of regime change operations, and which have never worked, by the way. Regime change operations have never worked for US, but somehow they still try. India Mauritius to start trade in national currencies, says PM Modi. This is very interesting. This is another finger to the US, right? Because US is very anti countries using different currencies for trades and investments, right? But India and Mauritius is essentially, India is investing a lot in Mauritius. So there's a $680 million plan. $680 million is the direct, yeah. Package for Southern Indian Ocean region state, announcing assistance worth $680 million. And in addition to that, there's a $440 million worth projects which will be undertaken on grant come a line of credit basis. So essentially debt. So India, Mauritius are doing that. Very important. India is also trying to, work something up in Nicobar Island, which is a very strategic play. It's 150 kilometers from Indonesia. So, a lot of strategic importance, but that's also led to a political firestorm in the country, which I won't talk about because we don't like talking about politics, right? Trade deal not that far apart, says Sergio and also Mr. Marco Rubio. So Marco Rubio is one of the very key figures in the American political place. He says future of the 21st century will be written in the Indo-Pacific. India is at the core of that. Yeah, sure. But why did you listen to bad advice from Lutnick, guys like Lutnick and guys like Peter Navarro? Why did you do that? Why did you shoot yourself in the foot, man? Why? Why did you do that? Mr. Headed Home writes, life for Indians below top 15-20% is not that great. Well, of course. And we've discussed something, right? Everything is the incentive structure. Our judiciary, we've talked about the incentive structure. We won't say that again. We won't talk too much about it. But we studied the case study of El Salvador, yeah, Nayib Bukele, and how it was the crime capital of the world. It was the most unsafe country in the world, and now it's the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, right? It's become a tourist destination. It's safer than United States for anybody. So how he did that was he fixed the incentive scheme. Like, what is the incentive of a gang member, and what is the incentive of an honest guy who gets robbed by the gang member? If you're an honest guy making a living and then you see somebody robbing you and he's prospering, what is your incentive to do honest work, right? That is the major problem as far as India is considered. We are not incentivized to do good work in this country because of our judicial problems. Moving on. A lot of political chit chat which we best not discuss. Japan model inspires India's spatial policy for urban planning. NSP to set 20-year goals, a national structure, corridor maps, and climate risk principles. So Japan is, inspiring India. No surprise there. India and Japan really tight. The bullet train project, really tight. 1 second, just I need to charge my laptop. Mr. Headed Home says very true. Just 1 second, folks. I'm so sorry for this. I usually put my devices on charge, but sometimes I forget. Majeti, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Mr. Majeti. He's the founder and chief of Swiggy. So he says that he's upbeat on Instamart. And Instamart has been able to do well recently, not because the competition is dwindling, because their moves and their understanding of customers is better than other people. So recently what has happened is that Blinkit is at the top as far as the whole quick commerce game is considered. Instamart was number two, but then Zepto, came up and it became a challenger. But then Zepto had like a lot of problems, dark patterns, and so on and so forth. And there were a lot of issues with Zepto and a lot of burn as well, extraordinary burn, right? So Zepto essentially sort of started fading, and Instamart has started taking its place. In the midst of all of this, Big Basket is seen nowhere. Big Basket has really lost the bus, and only Tata Digital is to be blamed, because they, instead of promoting Basket as an independent brand, they started killing their own brands which they bought for money, right? 1mg, Cult, Big Basket, and they started promoting new, which nobody gave a shit about, right? They ended up burning like $2 billion, and now Big Basket is not in the conversation. Very sad. But Mr. Majeti says, if he was Spanish, I would have called him Maheti, right? Because J is H in Spanish. But Mr. Majeti says he's upbeat on Instamart. And the question is, are you? Are you? Because they're draining a lot of money, right? It's not green, man. Instamart doesn't have a lot of things going for it. So no matter what he says, it's not green. Nifty just about tops 25,000 with no spark on the street. Investors await fresh triggers amid mixed global cues, earnings concern, index likely to move in a narrow range until US-India deals are finished. So US-India deals are going to be looking at getting over by October, right? October. So that's what the market is assuming is the timeline for Indian equities to get that fresh perspective of growth, right? Till then, it's going to be a bit of a hassle, let's say. Speaking of hassles, Demat account additions have slowed down to 24.8 lakh in August. A very interesting number which you might like is that in 2020 we had 5 crore Demat accounts. In 2020 we had 5 crore Demat accounts, and now we have 20 crore Demat accounts. 20 crore Demat accounts. Right? That's huge, man. That's 5 crore in 2020 to 20 crore in 2025. That's just extraordinary growth, right? 4x in 5 years. That's huge. At this moment, however, the Demat account, account additions have slowed down to 24.8 lakh. Against 29.8 lakh in the previous month, as the market is becoming a bit wobbly. Also, people who are getting these Demat amount, the real info is at the active account rate, and that is declining, right? While these account openings in August were in line with monthly average, brokers say that is not the actual picture, because new accounts are being opened every month. The numbers don't tell the whole story. The number of active clients on the exchanges have gone down over the past year. This suggests that many of these new accounts may not be actively trading, as they could be either used for mutual fund investments or there may be duplication of participants across brokerages. So one guy has a Zerodha account and he also makes a Grow account because there's some sort of incentive there, and so on and so on. So that's what's going on with Demat account additions. 24.8 lakh. 2020, just 4 crores. 5 crores. 2025, 20 crores. Mr. Headed Home writes, on insurance, I recently tried getting term insurance, which was around 17k for a year and GST 5k, and once the news was on GST cut, I cancelled it. Now it says 17k plus 10%. I would still save 2 to 3k. That's what the government wanted to do, right? Even though I don't know if the GST revision has happened as far as term plans are considered. Because individual life insurance definitely, but term, I don't know. I am not sure. So you might know better. Moving on. Back when I was very depressed, I got a term insurance, right? I thought I'm gonna, but then I got okay, and then I stopped the term insurance play. You know, phases of life, man. Anyway, moving on. Uh, China stocks jump since March. AI linked shares lead. So, uh, China stocks are jumping. In fact, even the US stocks, which are jumping, the most of the steam US market is getting, the growth is the China play. Oh, sorry, the AI play, right? And the same is happening with China. So Alibaba is looking at a lot of AI based business, if you remember, right? And that particular play is essentially happening now. So there's a company which is called Nvidia of China, right? And which is something called, what is the name of the company which is called Nvidia of China? China's little Nvidia. It's called Cambricon Technologies Corporation. Cambricon Technologies. Now it's climbed 9%, and many companies have really grown. So most of the indexes that are growing, let's say US and China, most of their growth is coming because of AI. If you take out AI, their markets are dull, right? And that's probably why Indian markets are also not looking that attractive right now, because India doesn't have a lot to show for as far as the AI play is considered, at least in the public market. So remember that where you heard it first, right? Why Indian equities are not really looking so green to the rest of the world is because AI is the new lure, and AI is so extraordinary that it's really pushing, bringing the markets up, especially the emerged markets of China and US. Most of China and US market gains have been related to AI, and India doesn't have much to show for as far as that play is considered, and that's why it's all happening. And when the AI thing sort of tapers down, that's when the normal industries are going to look cool again, right? Moving on. Private lenders eat into PSU deposit pie but pay price in lower net interest margins. So we've discussed a lot about this. The banking, the net interest margins, and so on and so forth. We've talked a lot about this, right? So this is a story in continuation, as we discussed a couple of days ago, I guess. If you look at history as a process and not a bunch of museum pieces, right? It really helps you predict things. It really gives you a direction of where things might go in future, and where you might go in future, and where an industry might go in future, right? And that's exactly what's happening. So private lenders, when interest rates rose over the past 6 years, depositors voted with their wallets, and many chose private banks because they paid more interest, right? The share of private sector banks in the saving accounts, deposit accounts, jumped 526 BPS. 526 BPS is 5.26%. To 30.6% between FY19 and FY15. So 30.6%, 25% to 30% savings share of private banks, right? For public sector banks, it fell again 5.7% to 61.8. The trend which was amplified after RBI's rate hike. So RBI's rose the rates back in 2022, and now banks prefer to keep a high level of saving account balance as they are sticky and low cost source for funding. So banks make money by lending, right? But where can they get that money from, right? One of the sources is the savings account, current account deposits, right? Now those deposits happened, and when the interest rates started coming down, the net interest margin of private banks started hurting because their overall appetite for the particular asset class improved, right? If you can call savings account, current account an asset class, they had a lot of it, right? And when interest rates came down, the lending rate will obviously come down, and that sort of squeezes the interest margin, which is exactly what happened with private pump. So saving deposit for private banks doubled to 21 lakh crore. Similar trend was seen, so on and so forth. Now, however, winning customers had a downside. Aggressive push to lure depositors squeezed profitability of private banks as their net interest margins contracted to 5.2% from 5.4%. So That's what pressure traces back to RBI's rate cycle and so on and so forth. So net interest margin, the money you make when you lend is, let's say, 9%, and money you make, so money you lose when you deposit somebody else's money. So let's say you give 5%. So the net interest margin 4%. I'm just giving a vague example. It's not the number, but that's the net interest margin for new viewers. So we've started getting a lot of new viewers at Thinkers Frequency. Seems like our goodwill is growing up, right? Which is nice. Moving on. Festive demand, GST cuts likely to cushion tariff impact. We've talked a lot about that. Infi has okayed 18,000 crore share buyback, its largest ever. So Infosys is buying its share back, which is good news for investors. It's a positive move looked at positively by investors. If you want to read a good book about buybacks, about dividends, about debt, about equity, about how stocks are juiced out maximum to the max by people like Mr. Warren Buffett, how they look at stocks, right? How they look at a buyback, how investors. A very good book is Outsiders. It's based on Mr. Buffett, more or less. So you might like to read that book. Very fun read, but also heavy, number heavy. So good book. Moving on. So with pressures easing on India as far as United States is considered, India's Russian crude imports rise to 2.9 billion euros in August, close to China's 3.1. New Delhi says it's being singled out while others continue Russian energy imports. This particular play is also getting corroborated by Europe. So Europe was being pressured by United States, by the Trump administration. You remember when they said tariff China and India so that they stop buying Russian oil, and that will bring Russia on its knees and the war will stop, right? You remember that? Europe said no. Europe said we can't do that. I'm so sorry. We're so sorry. Because Europe is essentially a dead economy, right? They can't take a fight with China. And while they can take a fight with India, they wouldn't like to, because India is a pretty good partner that way. So now New Delhi is free to do whatever it's doing. New Delhi says it's being singled out. Crude imports rose. Washington slaps 25% tariff on Indian exports over Russian oil. Trump urges to impose up to 100% tariff on China and India. EU doesn't agree. China back being a very big, guy. Speaking of oil, desulfurization of tech suppliers seek clarity on ongoing projects. Vendors tasked with deploying flue gas desulfurization units at coal power plants are seeking clarity on backtrack or installation mandates. So something is happening as far as this whole play is considered. GE, Thermax, L&T are amongst the impacted decision submissions to center. So that's there was a lot of talk about this desulfurization tech, right? And it was really touted as something nice. But then the government has essentially put them in a limbo with a new decision on the way. Want existing projects to consider, right? Desulfurization tech providers seek relief, seek compensation if committed projects are junked. So government says that they're not really keen on that. So, or let's say they're changing directions. If they're keen on that, won't be the right thing to say. Speaking of crude, speaking of oil, India's e-bus revolution gets 137 million in IFC backing. IFC is India. No, sorry. What is IFC? One second. International Finance Corporation. International Finance Corporation giving 137 million for India's e-bus revolution, electric buses for new age mobility. Now that's going on. That's very important for India. Electric buses, they are very, very nice. The interesting what makes this interesting, which is called reading between the lines, is how this particular thing is structured. Okay, so 100 million to JBM Ecolife, part of JBM Auto, a manufacturer and an operator, and 37 million in mezzanine capital to GreenSen Mobility, an OEM agnostic e-bus operator sponsored by Eversource Capital. So 100 million given to JBM, right? And 37 million in mezzanine capital. Do you know what mezzanine capital is? Good morning, Bhaiya, says Archit. Good morning, Mr. Archit. Very nice to meet you. Do you know what mezzanine capital is? Have you got any clue? It's something very interesting. Mezzanine capital is great. It's just very interesting. So what mezzanine capital is that mezzanine capital, it can be called as like free money. It's debt. Okay, so mezzanine capital is debt. But what happens with mezzanine capital is that you don't have to pay the interest if you can't. Okay, you can add the interest in the principal itself. Okay, and then you can also pay in kind. So you can convert that debt if you can't pay it into equity. So that way it becomes a convertible note. The most beautiful part is that the interest can be accumulated to the principal. So essentially it becomes free money, right? So let's say you took a 100 rupee debt. It was 10 rupee interest every month, every year. You don't have those 10 rupees. Your cash isn't getting generated. So you just put the 10 rupee in the principal itself, right? And then when you start generating it, you can start paying the debt back till the maturity happens. So you will have to pay that debt. And if you can't pay that debt till the maturity, it can be converted to equity or you could refinance it. So mezzanine capital is like just beautiful, right? If you can raise that, it's awesome. It's priced a little nicely because of the freedoms it gives, but it's just extraordinary, right? Moving on. So that's what's going on with electric buses. Interesting, right? Did you know about that mezzanine capital thing? It's very interesting. And how I learned about mezzanine capital was from a book called The Money Trap. Alok Sama sir, he's been on my podcast. I read this book interview. Sounds risky. It's not risky at all. It's like, are you talking about risky for the lender? Because no, but if they like the equity, they can take it. So Mr. Alok Sama sir had a very interesting episode of the whole mezzanine capital and how SoftBank got a lot of it, right? It was just extraordinary. The book Money Trap, great book, and he came to one of my episodes. We had a talk, very nice talk. Moving on. Gadkari slams paid campaign against E20 fuel, calls it safe. So Mr. Nitin Gadkari has weighed in. He's probably the biggest proponent of E20, right? Ethanol. And he says that E20 is getting a paid opposition, which is not nice. It's actually a pretty good thing for cars and so on and so forth. Mr. Head It Home says, for the business, interest adding to principal, that's risky to me. Why is it risky? Because you're going to pay it anyway, right? So it's just basically you're getting a lot of time. Someday you had to pay that, right? And it's not that the thing compounds. It doesn't happen that way. So moving on. We've talked about notebook makers, trust nominees. Exempt income, actually so. Ask Taxman spooks many. So a lot of partners of the consulting companies, a lot of big shots, they have some sort of exempt income. So let's say if, partners cannot get more than 60% of what the company makes as payment. So some of this is gift. Some of this is a lot of... So taxmen have come, the income tax department coming to these HNIs and talking about the exempt income. And it's like, is it really exempt? Can we tax it? Now this is spooking a lot of investment grade people. They're saying this is harassment. This is the reason why we don't come to India, right? So that's going on. Scrutiny zone. Tax exempt incomes are mentioned separately in IT return forms. These income, profit share of a partner, farm income, PPR, PE and gratuity and so on and so forth. So farm income is also tax exempt. A lot of HNIs, what they do, like Mr. Shah Rukh Khan was in news because his kid bought a farmland, right? And that was essentially tax evasion. So these, the scrutiny notices have come as a surprise to many. Tax practitioners think it may be a system error. Moving on. Adani Power has bagged a 1600 megawatt thermal project, invest 21,000 crore. So just in the beginning, I was talking about Adani Group investing a lot As far as the private capex is considered, 1600 megawatt thermal project to invest 21,000 crores. The problem is that a lot of capex which is happening in this country is still happening at the refinery end, right? Or let's say the oil and this energy and power sector. That's we need something better. We need something better. Moving on. Amazon has expanded its quick commerce in Mumbai. From Bangalore, it's come to Mumbai. Someday it's gonna come to Delhi. Slowly and steadily, it's gonna be everywhere. When it becomes everywhere, just imagine the quick commerce fight, man. There's Blinkit, there's Instamart. We've talked about them. There's Zepto, there's Amazon, there's Flipkart, there's Big Basket, right? There's 6 players. Then there's Reliance, which is also coming. So 7 players. And who do you think is gonna lose? Can you make a guess on who will lose in this battle? Who do you think will actually lose in this particular play? Mr. Raju Kumar says Big Basket. No, it's gonna be the small business. It's gonna be the small business which is gonna lose, right? Everyone is gonna lose is a better answer, Mr. Singh. Zepto, Reliance. Mr. Bhandekar says Zepto. Mr. Archit says Reliance. Amazon is not going to. Zomato, Swiggy are gonna lose. And that's why would you say that? Amazon has actually lost the e-commerce play to Flipkart, right? It's not the market leader. It outspent Flipkart 3:1 in a lot of cases, but couldn't do. Moving on. We've talked about Adani. We've talked about Oracle became the new Nvidia amid AI cloud storage. Moving on. Amazon is making AR glasses. That's okay. US inflation is cool, 2.9%. We've discussed it a lot. $3.2 billion deal. Alibaba leads Chinese funding spree. Is leading a fundraise spree among Chinese tech giant driven by soaring capital demands amid intensifying competition in AI. Well, we've talked about this a lot. Moving on. Chinese magnet freeze is still a problem for Indian automakers. The high-level talks that happened between Modi ji and everybody, it seems like they haven't run on ground. So the magnet thing is still a problem. I wonder when it's gonna, when it's gonna be okay. Speaking of problems, when everything happened in Nepal, Indian FMCG companies were essentially looking at Nepal, right? They were tying up with Nepal. Chaudhary Group, the YY Group, was getting tied up with Bikaji Foods. Bikaji Foods and Chaudhry's were getting into a joint venture. All of that goes into a limbo. And what do we always say? You remember what we say, right? Business outcomes are mostly the result of political will. So bad politics, or let's say anti-business politics or anti-your business politics. If you are doing some business and the political people don't know about it, they just go out of the way. Moving on. We've talked about this. Xiaomi disconnect with India deepens. 4,700 crore frozen funds. Shipments fell 23% year on year in Q2. Low marketing spends and so on and so forth. So a lot happening as far as Xiaomi. It's not that green, the company, anymore, because the government saw that some shady activities were happening as far as Xiaomi is considered. So they took it out, right? And then the company is not looking at investing heavily in the country. Marketing spends have gone out. Seems like it's fading away. Mr. Raju Kumar says, you got to interview Jack Ma. Oh my God, Jack Ma. Jack Ma. I watched his interview with Elon Musk, Mr. Musk, Mr. Jack Ma and Mr. Musk. I wasn't impressed with Jack Ma, to say the least. To say the least. Insurance companies have issued a 10,000 crore surety bond for NHAI contracts, which is huge. NHAI is still making great progress. We are very happy. Mr. Nitin Gadkari says that he dreams to actually take the road construction up by 100 kilometers a day, right? He peaked at 38. He says His goal was to go 100. Then from 38, it's down to 24, 25, 28, right? He wants to go up to 100 kilometers a day. Moving on. With that, we've come to the end of the 110th episode of Thinker's Frequency. 110th episode, right? How time flies. I hope you had fun. I hope it was nice for you. I hope you liked it. It added value. It definitely added a lot of value for me. I read everything because of you. So thank you so much. I need to thank Miss Shivani Rajgharia, Mr. Head It Home, Mr. Yogen Pratap Singh, Mr. Tiwari, Mr. Archit, Mr. Pratik Vesh, Mr. Raju Kumar. Of course, thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, for all the, I got messages from people that, hey, I don't know why, but you've disabled the auto indexing or captions. Please do it because it helps me revisit. And I'm like, it's not me. It's not something that has been done auto, right? It's Mr. Kumar. And then they said that, whoa, thank God for Mr. Kumar. I hope he gets to the recent episodes as well. And like, please leave it to, we could only be thankful. No demands to Mr. Kumar. We are just very thankful that he's doing it. So I got messages like that. Mr. Bhandekar, everybody, thank you so much. Our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis. Right before we punch in, it's 9:13. We are punching in. I hope you have a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Take care. Bye-bye.